בוקר טוב, אנחנו נמצאים on page קוף עם הודעה.
מזמור קוף בכליב, לא? מזמור קופה? הודעה? קוף מלמי.
Give me ומתוק האור ביקרא ג'. יש בתפילת הקורבנות לעולם, ביקרא ג'. לא? Doesn't make no sense. So give me but 1 second. I want to see. It should be Gimel also. Oh, okay. אז הכל ברוך. יש בתפילת הקורבנות ויסי לעולם יהא אדם ירא שמיים בסתר ומודה על האמת. ומודה על האמת. Why it's so hard to admit? Huh?
You had a class on that.
I want to answer, not a class.
Everybody said learned that everybody likes to be right. They think they're always right. So a person to admit that he was wrong.
Okay.
אני לא בסדר. If you admit it forces you to act and do something and you don't want to do it.
So you say you don't want to do it, and you say because
the person feels like he's
try our best to be correct.
Like if
not as
somebody
good, his identity is
Ego.
if somebody admits that Hashem wants you to keep Shabbat, then he knows he has to keep Shabbat. So he doesn't want to admit it. He doesn't want to keep.
oh yeah. Okay. I want to read you a story that it's brought in book Hayim Sheyesh Bahem. The story goes like this. מעשה נפלא אודות החתם סופר. Mr. Albert, a story about the Chatam Sofer. הסיפור סיפר אותו הרב עזריאל יהודה ליבוביץ בשם הרב אברום פרנקפורט that spoke to the האדמו"ר ממונקאץ'. איפה מרקוס קאבה? חבל שהוא לא פה. במהלך שיחתם, during their conversation, שאל אותו האדמו"ר, the Rebbe from Munkach, he spoke to Rabbi Avrom Frankfurt, and he asked him, האם יודע הוא, do you know, מדוע החתם סופר התקבל בכל תפוצות ישראל, אפילו יותר מגאוני הדורות הקודמים? Do you know why the Chatam Sofer got accepted בעם ישראל? That's one. Second, even more than previous generations from before him. Are you going to Olam? But somehow the Chatam Sofer stick out until today. Chatam Sofer, you say Chatam Sofer kachakatu, that's it. Chatam Sofer is one of the greatest poskim that Am Yisrael not only we hold by, but lomdim yom yom b'torato. That's what the Admoni Munkach asked Rabbi Avrom Frankfurt. השיב לו רב אברום, יודע אני על עובדה אחת. Tells him, I know one story, And I think that story could answer your question. And he tells him, Shamati mereb Rabbi Yisrael Yitzchok Aharon Landesberg, שהוא היה תלמיד של החתם סופר. And he told him, I heard that from him, and I think that could answer your question. And he tells him, Harav Landesberg, he was called in the yeshiva as a kid, Itzik Aaron Schlossberger. Why? Because from the town he came from. He came to the yeshiva when he was 12 years old. And he was known to be Eilui Nifla. He was a genius, something unbelievable. A young kid who came to the yeshiva when he was 12 already. And his brain, his mind was something, wow. Eilui. And he says, the custom in the yeshiva was that the Chatam Sofer would give classes every day and every year, but it was a cycle. Almost every 3 years, he finished the cycle between Baba Kama, Baba Matzia, Baba Batra, Gitin, Kitushin, whatever it is. So every 3 years, he would finish one cycle. So after 3 years, he would go over the same Masechtot that he spoke 3 years ago. Yeah, got it?
Yeah.
Okay. כשהוא חוזר תחילה על מה שנתחדש בפעמים הקודמות. So the classes would go, he would repeat the same classes that he gave 3 years ago, and then he would add every year עוד חידושים. But the main class was from the previous years, the classes that he gave on the Masechtot that you learned in the yeshiva. We good?
Yeah.
Itzik Aaron, this kid, היה בחוץ, he was a young kid, and he had no money. So he offered his friends that since he remembers all the classes of the Chatam Sofer, he would write all the classes that he said, word by word, and he would sell these classes to his friends, and that's how he would make a couple pennies. Yeah, he remembered the classes word by word to the Chatam Sofer. He said, I'll write all the shorim down. Here's the konteresim, and I'll sell it. And that's how I'll make some money. So they told him, if you could write word by word, Amash, we're willing to pay you 5 zuhuvim, 5 coins, which is a lot of money back then. Yitzhak Aaron, or Itzik Aaron, he got excited. He got excited. He says, how about this? Not only I could write down word by word what he said, I could describe you every body move.
Wow.
When every body move that he said, however he said, when he banged on the bang while he said the classes. They told him, if you're going to do so, we're going to pay you extra 5 coins for that. Meaning you're going to write, and you can act it out every move he said 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He remembered every body move. How did he ask the question, and how did he bang, and he remembered everything. They told him, if you do so, we'll pay you an extra 5 coins. Okay? All right? What happened? They came to the Chatam Sofer. It's already 3 years after. The boys came to the show, and the Chatam Sofer, he started to give the class. He gives the class, and under the table, he copied every move he did last 3 years, which the Chatam Sofer repeats himself also. So, זה השאלה, right? That's the question. That, you know, when you learn Gemara and you have a question, you'll act it out the same way even 20 years after. It's the same thing. It's the same gebrennt. It's the same fire. As he comes to ask the question and to give the answer under the table, he does all the body. Everything. והחל איציק ארן לחכות מתחת לשולחן את התנועות שעשה רבו בפעם הקודמת. He copied every body move that he did last time, and before every end of question, any end of answer, he did the same thing. כל מי שראה זאת לא היה יכול לכבוש את חיוכו. Whoever saw that couldn't stop laughing. They couldn't even cover. Told to talk. The Chatam Sofer היה אריה. He gives the bomb questions, he gives answers, and then he sees people are laughing. Now, you have to understand, שיעוריו של החתם סופר היו נאמרים באימה וביראה. ללא כל חיוך על שפתיו. When he gave a class, there was no jokes, there was no laugh. היה פחד, היה אימה, was fear. When he gave the class, היה fear. אי לכך, תוך רגעים אחדים, פתאום, with a couple seconds, he sensed something is wrong goes on in the yeshiva. Instead, במקום שתלמידיו ישבו באימה וביראה כתלמיד לפני רבו, כמו שנהגו תמיד, הם נראים כמו בימי הפורים. Instead of sitting next to the rabbi with fear, like every day, it looks like it was אווירה של פורים that day. When he saw that, he asked the boys, מה יום יומיים? What happened today? What's going on? In a second, נמחק החיוך מהשפתיים שלהם. In a second, their smile was wiped from their faces. נשתתקו במבוכה ובפחד. got silent, על פחד, ולא הרהיבו לענות על שאלת רבם. That they had no even guts to answer his question. אבל, אתה שומע? הם אפילו לא יכלו לענות. החתם סופר לא הרפא מהם. He didn't let it go. והוסיף לחקור ולדרוש אודות הסיבה להתנהגותם השונה. He went on and on, what's going on? And nobody answered. When he saw that nobody answered, he called one of the boys by the name Aaron David Deutsch. He called him. He was a young kid. He was only 14 years old, and he used to eat in his house. He called this boy that eat by his house, lunch and dinner. Come here. Aaron David, אמור לי את האמת. מה אירע כאן? Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. What happened here? בלית ברירה. He had no choice. ואהרון דוד respond. כי איציק ארן משלויסנבורג התערב עם הבחורים. התערב? He had a bet. שהוא יכול לחזור על חידושי רבנו from the previous years, to write it down word by word, and to act it out how you said it 3 years ago. Wow. That's what Aaron David Deutsch tells the Chatam Sofer why the boys in the class were laughing, because that kid, not only he knew the class, he was able to copy word by word. He knew how you act everything out. And he did it under the table. And when the boys saw, they were laughing. האומנם ככה דבר? Is that true? הגיב החתם סופר בקפדה. חתם סופר responded very, very, הקפדה. יצחוק אהרון חוטף ממני את השיעורים. This kid grabs away my classes, ובמילים אלו סגר את הגמרא ועזב את המקום בלי להוסיף מילה. The Chatam Sofer, when he heard what that kid acted, he closed the book, the Gemara, and he left. The Chatam Sofer, he closed his book and no class. He canceled the class and left the room. He left the room. פחד ואימה נותרו הבחורים. The Bahurim were afraid. קפאו במקומותיהם, they couldn't even move. ולא העזו לפצות פה, they had no guts even to open their mouth. מעולם לא אירע כדבר הזה. It never happened before ever that the Chatam Sofer closes his book. He got up and he left. It never happened. It was first time in history. But the scary part was the Chatam Sofer היה לו הקפדה. ואתם יודעים חס ושלום, שתמיד חכם יש לו הקפדה, בשמיים the punishment comes quick and harsh. And they knew שאם יש הקפדה, חס ושלום, משהו יכול לקרות להם.
מה זה הקפדה? He's like
hold a grudge, like
It's a lot grudge, but
You got hurt? I don't know.
שתמיד כשיש הקפדה, הוא מקפיד. No, decree זה גזירה. No, it's not.
He's serious about it. Like, he doesn't let it go.
Reservation?
it's bothering him.
Bothering is not even the right
but
word.
more
אבל זה הקפדה that usually תלמידי חכמים מוחלים, they forgive. But if something happens and they don't forgive and they don't let things go, כביכול הוא דורש חס ושלום that the person is going to get punished from שמיים. This is dangerous. If it happens, and תלמידי חכמים, it comes fast and harsh. The boy saw that the Chatam Sofer was very, very serious, and he never ever closed the book and left. היה הקפדה, והיה משהו לא פשוט. I want you to know, היה פעם in the yeshiva in Eretz Israel. I heard from the rabbi a couple of times, and he also wrote it in the book. היו כמה בחורים שעשו זה משהו לתלמיד חכם, היה לו הקפדה, היו 10 בחורים, 10 boys. None of them got married, וכולם מתו מיתות משונות. All 10.
Unusual deaths.
לא התחתנו כל החיים שלהם, וכל אחד נפטר לו not on a regular day. אף פעם היה זה משהו, I don't want to go into details. He wrote it in his Sofer Yechidei Sugula, he brings it down. But I heard it from him, and he used to tell to the boys, stay away from mahlokot in the yeshiva. Stay away, don't take any side in any mahlokot in the yeshiva, because אנשים מקנה אנשים מזה.
הרב לא עשה את זה.
מה פתאום הוא היה מזהיר אותנו? הלאה. So the boys saw the Chatam Sofer's reaction, and they were very afraid. למחרת, the next morning, הגיעה הוראה חד משמעית מהחתם סופר, להודיע שכל הבחורים ללא יוצא מן הכלל יגיעו לשיעור. The next morning, they announced that the Chatam Sofer wants everybody to come to the yeshiva, ואיש לא יעדר. Nobody dare not to come. מי שלא יבוא, whoever is not going to come, הוסיף החתם סופר, he got kicked out from the yeshiva. A kid who's not going to come tomorrow to the yeshiva, he'll be kicked out. Who is here, and he also warned, כי איציק אהרון חייב לבוא. That kid, he must come. ככל תלמידי הישיבה, he has to come, ואם יסרב, and if he's going to refuse, על חבריו להביאו בניגוד לרצונו. His friends, they have to force him, drag him, he has to come also. That was the announced in the yeshiva. פחדו כולם. They all came, ולא הייתה לאיציק אהרון כל ברירה. And he had no choice. גופו רעד מהמעשה של אתמול. His body was shaking. רגליו לא הצליחו לשאת אותו. He couldn't even walk to the yeshiva. וחבריו נשאו אותו על כתפיהם לעולם הישיבה. And his friends had to carry him on the shoulders to bring him to the yeshiva. הוא היה שבור ורצוץ. He was broken. ומשוכנע, and was convinced that the Chatam Sofer is going to kick him out from the yeshiva for what he did yesterday. The Chatam Sofer came to the yeshiva. האולם הייתה מלאה. Everybody came. דממה שררה. It was silent. והחתם סופר הורה לכולם לשבת. And he said, everybody should please sit down. ורק קולו נשמע, and his voice was heard. בניי היקרים, my dear children, אתמול בעת השיעור, yesterday when I gave a class, איבדתי את עשתונותיי. I lost my mind. במקום, instead of לשבח את הבחור יצחק אהרון על מידת החביבות שלו לחידושי התורה של רבו, instead of praising this kid, Yitzchak Aaron, the love that he had to the חידושים of his rabbi, which means Chatam Sofer, ולחביבות התורה and the sweetness of the Torah, ועל כשרונותיו הנעלים and his brilliant mind, וזיכרונו הנפלא and his wonderful memory, instead of praising him, נכשלתי בעוון החמור של מלבין פני חברו ברבים. I did a mistake and I embarrassed someone in public. ובאומרו זאת, and when he said it, פרץ החתם סופר בבכי קורע שזעזע את כל הנוכחים. When he said it, he burst out of crying that shook the entire yeshiva. רגעים ארוכים חלפו. Many minutes passed by. ועדיין מנסר בחלל הישיבה, and you can still hear the קול בכיו של החתם סופר, the voice and tears of the חתם סופר, כשהוא שב וחוזר, when he repeats himself and he says, שהמלבין פני חברו ברבים, אין לו חלק לעולם הבא. And therefore, אינני רואה עצמי כראוי להמשיך ללמד בישיבה. Since so, I have no חלק לעולם הבא, I don't see myself worthy to continue teaching in the yeshiva. אבל ברצוני לפייסו. But I want to ask forgiveness. והמשך חתם סופר והוא בכה. And he kept going crying. על כן אני מבקש מכם, חנוני בני חנוני. I ask you, my dear children, אנוכי מבקש מהקדוש ברוך הוא שמחול לי. I ask הקדוש ברוך הוא, please for forgiveness. יותר לא אעשה כדבר הזה. I will never do this ever again. וממך יצחק אהרון, אני מבקש 1,000 מחילות. I ask you for 1,000 times for forgiving me. אנא בני מחל לי. Please forgive me. You can imagine the entire yeshiva ככה. ושומעים את החתם סופר ככה מדבר. הרים עיניו אל יצחק אהרון ושאל, האם מנך מוחל לי? He raised his eyes and he looked at him and he tells him, do you forgive me? יצחק אהרון התקשה להאמין, he couldn't believe what he hears. איבריו רטטו ללא שליטה, he was shaking, he couldn't even control, ויכולת הדיבור ניטלה ממנו, he couldn't even talk. האומנם מורו ברבו הגדול, ענק שבענקים, גדול הדור, מבקש מהקטן ממני מחילה על דבר שלא צריך לבקש מחילה, וגדול הדור, he comes ask me for forgiveness where he should not even ask me because what I did. ראשו נשמט, his head moved, וגופו כאילו קפא על מקומו. His body froze. הבחורים שסביבו, the boys that were around him, when they saw the Chatam Sofer's pain, so ניסו לדחוף אותו ולעורר אותו שיאמר שהוא מוחל. הם ראו את החתם סופר בוכה ובוכה ומבקש פליז מחילה, and the boy not even ready to that. הוא לא מוכן בכלל. And the חתם סופר is asking פליז מחילה, הוא אפילו לא. הוא בפחד, הוא לא יכול להגיב. So his friends tell him, תגיד מחול. יצחק אהרון התאמץ, he tried, קולו לא נשמע. His voice, you couldn't hear his voice. ומולו ממלמל לחתם סופר. אינני יכול ללמד. I cannot teach. Meaning, if you're not going to forgive me, I cannot teach Torah anymore in the yeshiva. For me to stay here, to learn and to teach, it's only if you're going to forgive me. בסוף, at the end, somehow, הצליח אהרון, יצחק אהרון לגמגם to stutter, and he says, כן, אני מוחל. And the Chatam Sofer says, בלב שלם, with a full heart, אין לך קפדה עליי, you have nothing against me. עזר יצחק אהרון עוז. He got some strength, and he got up. He went to the Chatam Sofer. He took his hand. נשק ידי רבו. He kissed his rabbi's hand ואמר, רבי, לא ולא, אין בליבי שום קפדה חלילה, I have nothing against you, חס ושלום. And only after that, the Chatam Sofer says, כעת ראוי אני להמשיך ללמד. Now I'm worthy to give over a class. 390 בחורים, 390 students were at that place when that happened. אומר רב אברום פרנקפורט to the Munkach Rebbe, now you're asking me why the Chatam Sofer's Torah got spread all over the world? Because what it takes in the Chobat Levavot, how many chapters? Jewish Musar, V'Kava Yashar, about the Midot, here you saw live in 20-30 minutes what it takes years and years and years and years. ללמוד books over books to change a midah. And here Ummah ze Sefer Midot Naki mehalech among them to walk, benehem. The greatness of the Chatam Sofer that he was able to ask for forgiveness, even from someone katan. But not only, I'm sorry, he made sure to call everybody and to ask him for forgiveness. Amolo, if you want to know why the Chatam Sofer Zacha le'an shezacha, nearly because of that story. This is a Hagdama introduction for the class Be'ezrat Hashem tomorrow. מה זה נקרא הודאה? To know, to admit. אז כל המצוות ויום מבורך.